Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, once again, these are companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. I highly recommend that you check them out. So take 3 minutes, listen to our sponsor shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be very glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to their website and take a look at their interactive touchscreen. That's right, touchscreen video consoles. You put one of these units in your gym lobby, your main school hallway, it's going to be a magnet for kids, coaches. You really got to see it to believe it. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com for more information. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. As an AD, we were a Huddle school, and our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just loved it. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to thank Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school and our teams with tremendous success, and so will you. Check out all their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, go to snapraise.com and you'll see that you found it. We also want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say many times, one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing genius. Whether it's a simple post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things you're doing, the team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown is changing the game with their suite of solutions that includes things like, well, big surprise, digital ticketing. But how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more? Whether you're an AD, a principal, or a head coach, Hometown is going to help you save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. Go to hometown.com for more information. We want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. And while you complete your master's degree in 20 months, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to thank our friends at Home Campus. Home Campus is the official high school sports administration software platform for Florida, California, and other states, and thousands of ADs. And even if your state has a different platform, you can still be a home campus school. I'm telling you, their features just can't be beat, especially their athletic clearance and eligibility platform. Go to homecampus.com for more information. That's homecampus.com. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. You know, athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from a very small group that just wants to complain. Athletic Surveys is going to connect you to that group so you can hear their concerns, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And having that data in your hand is incredibly valuable, especially when you're maybe visiting with your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. It's athleticsurveys.com. And don't forget to mention the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD. We're staying right here in Florida. If you've been paying attention, we're doing a Florida series these past couple weeks. And our guest today is Nick Fernandez. Nick is a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Immaculata LaSalle High School. That's in South Florida, Miami. A long history with the school. 100 years ago, when I was at Palmer Trinity as the AD, we competed against LaSalle, had some good battles. Nick Fernandez, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you so much, Jake. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on and kind of excited to share my experience.
Well, absolutely. Let's go and jump right in. As you know, we always like to let our listeners get to know our guests. So give us your quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Take us up through your own, maybe high school and college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Nick Fernandez origin story?
Nothing special, similar to a lot of South Florida kids, born and raised in Miami, come from Cuban immigrant parents. Had an opportunity to go to some great schools. Been in the Catholic school system my entire life. Started off at a small school in Coconut Grove, St. Hugh, and then went to high school at St. Brendan High. Ultimately got an opportunity to go to college and started off at Miami-Dade, where I was really trying to get my feet wet after playing high school sports, playing high school basketball, captain of the team, all Dade, kind of things like that. Not really knowing what was next for me. Went to Dade to try and figure myself out for a little bit. Had a professor that was an athletic trainer for Miami-Dade, had his class, Care and Prevention class, and he actually was like, "Hey, you seem like you might be interested in athletics." Actually offered me a scholarship to be a student athletic trainer. And I was like, oh wow, okay. And he's like, yeah. So they paid for some of my school's first couple of years there at Miami-Dade. The late great Mr. Jim Cox was the athletic director at the time, and they gave me an opportunity, and I kind of was a student trainer for them, or traveling with some of the teams. Um, Once I kind of was rounding up with that, I ended up transferring over to the University of South Florida over in Tampa. Go Bulls. Great spot to be. Was still pursuing athletic training, hit a little bit of a bump in the road. Couldn't really continue to pursue that, mainly because I was just having some trouble with calculus. Wasn't really a good numbers guy. So ended up having to switch gears a little bit. Ended up going to the College of Education, and getting my degree in physical education. I knew I wanted to do something in sports. Didn't know exactly what yet. Knew that was going to be a good foundation for me to kind of, maybe branch out and do some other things. So got my degree in physical ed in Tampa at USF, and then made my way back to Miami, where I began to be a physical education teacher my first couple years.
Well, again, I just love to hear the stories. I want to go back to when you were a kid. You mentioned the Catholic Church and the Cuban heritage. Um, and for listeners, maybe not familiar with Florida or even Miami, let's say the Latinx, as a huge influence and a great part of the culture.
Yeah.
Was it? Was your family, were you kicking a soccer ball? I know you were a big basketball guy later on, but what was that like when you were a little kid and sports? What was going on?
So I'm the youngest of three boys. I have two older brothers. They were sports junkies, so I kind of just fall right into that mold, right? I had, we grew up in Westchester, which is a small little suburb in Miami, and it was the perfect place and the perfect time because all around us was a bunch of, friends that we got together in the neighborhood and just played football, played basketball, played soccer, played t-ball, played anything we can grab a ball with and go outside and ride bikes and kind of, tear up the neighborhood a little bit. That's what we were doing, and that's kind of where my passion for sports happened. I have two older brothers that both played high school basketball as well. Got to watch them play growing up. Competitive games in the driveway.
Oh yeah.
Competitive games with the neighborhood kids. So it was always, kind of just like how it was. And then our house was always so welcoming. My mom and my dad would always allow my friends to come over from the neighborhood. They'd give us some drinks, give them some, some Capri Sun, some chips, some food. We would all have a good time, playing around nonstop. And that's kind of how my childhood was for the most part. And I think a lot of the kids in my area were kind of the same way. We would go to church every Sunday. My mom is a Catholic school teacher. My dad was in insurance. My mom is actually now a Catholic school principal at the school that I went to at St. Hugh. And my daughter's actually going to be starting 3K there this upcoming year. So it's kind of all coming full circle right now.
Well, again, that's just great. I love it. Going back to those days when you're out with all the neighborhood kids and your brothers. I was talking to an AD that is younger than me but older than you, and we all had the same experience. So was this your experience? We were out. After breakfast, say in summertime, we're out the door on our bikes and we're gone. We're playing in somebody's backyard. We're down at the local pool, whatever. And our parents, they had no idea where we were at. Okay. And then, we're back home maybe for lunch, definitely for dinner, and then maybe back out again for a couple hours before it gets dark. Was that your experience growing up? You're just gone and the parents were not there at all? Or were you of that age where they're taking you to soccer practice and little league practice and all that? What was that like?
For the most part, we were on our own, and during those times where we were kind of out, rough riders on our bikes, kind of, running around the neighborhood. It was I think my brothers had beepers. I didn't have a beeper. I was too young, so they would page them whenever they needed to kind of figure us out. I think I got my first phone and I was like in eighth grade going into high school. I got my first phone to kind of communicate with them. But for the most part, it was, hey, I'm going to this person's house. If I needed something, I can pick up the phone, the landline, and give them a call at the house. Still remember that number, even though it's disconnected. And that's kind of how it was. Just kind of, keeping them in the loop of where we were going, of who we were hanging out with. And they trusted us to kind of, stick to that. There's probably some times where maybe we weren't doing exactly what we said, but that's just kids being kids, I think, at that point.
That's right. Yeah, what happens in the neighborhood stays in the neighborhood.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
let's go and fast forward to your high school days. Had great success in basketball. What are some memories of that time you can share with our listeners?
Just, the overall just environment of having a group of guys that you were with, working out, practicing, traveling on the bus. Those memories are really irreplaceable. I still talk to a lot of the guys on my team. Actually, my best friends actually weren't even on the basketball team. My best friends didn't even play sports. So I still had like my other group of basketball, friends that I would really, hang out with and hoop. And we'd go over to their houses on the weekends and we would hoop and we would join Hoop It Up 3-on-3 tournaments and join a bunch of different little things wherever we got an opportunity to kind of continue to play. And it was a good time. I had, two coaches in high school, well, one for 3 years, and then my senior year had another coach. They were, impactful in different ways, not necessarily always positive, not necessarily always exactly what you wanted, but I think they helped shape kind of some of the way that we think and how we view the world and kind of how we get put into situations where we are now, right? We're now, again, that term coming full circle where I am trying to give our athletes the same kind of experience, but trying to leveling it up a little bit and trying to make it just that much better from the things that I had and then kind of sprinkling in some of that new age love that we can do now.
And that's such a great point that, coaches, for good or bad, they have an impact on us. And you end up coaching the way you were coached, or if, something came up, you said, I'm not going to do that. That's not a good way to coach kids. Let's go and take our first break. Once again, our guest today is Nick Fernandez. He's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Immaculata LaSalle High School in Miami, Florida. Let's take that break, but we're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. You put one of these units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be a magnet for kids, for teachers, even parents. How about alumni and sponsors? You got to see it to believe it. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their great products today. We also want to say thank you to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, our parents loved the streaming, but there's a lot more. Go to huddle.com. Join the 8 million users and turn your school into a huddle school. That's huddle.com.
Huddle is absolutely phenomenal. Some of the things that they could do at Huddle is pretty remarkable. For instance, when we adopted the sideline, package for our football team, them being able to get in-game live replays for the staff was just a monumental help, and the technology is just it's kind of amazing that you can do that on the sidelines of a high school game. But we use Huddle for all of our sports, kind of recording, and streaming some of our games. So it's definitely a great tool to have at your school or your institution for sure.
Yeah, you're so right. The technology has changed, from even when I was using Huddle as a football coach, the stats and the analytics were just fantastic. But now the instantaneous sideline stuff, great option. You mentioned streaming. Have you got what is some of the feedback you've gotten from your fans about the streaming games?
We kind of stream it on a couple different ways. We started streaming, one particular way, and then our school kind of adopted this new media program, and we've been actually switching gears and doing more things on YouTube for our school because we got, and it's really one of the benefits that have happened during COVID, right? Where we were there was a couple things during that time where yeah, it was definitely difficult and troublesome, and those that lost their lives, our hearts goes out to them and their families for sure. But there was also some good things that kind of came from it. One of them was us being able to learn on the fly how to record and stream our games. So we've been doing a lot of that on our own now and kind of going away from all the different, still using some of the products, but still, doing our streaming. But for the most part, anytime we've used it, it's been great. It's touch the button and it kind of does everything on its own. You don't have to do anything. So that's really, my favorite kind of thing where I don't have to, do any extra work and make sure that it's rocking and rolling. I can just make sure that, it starts at a certain time and ends at a certain time and we're good. So I definitely highly recommend it for everybody.
Oh, wow. Well, again, I appreciate you giving them that shout out. For our listeners, our guest is Nick Fernandez. He's the director of athletics at Immaculata LaSalle High School. That's in Miami, Florida. Nick, you kind of shared your journey, graduating from the University of South Florida and then coming back to Miami. Tell us about your journey as a teacher, as a coach that's brought you now to LaSalle as their athletic director.
Yeah, so had an opportunity when I came back to interview at a couple schools that were, had some vacant, physical education teacher spots. Ended up landing on one in Key Biscayne, small island, right off of the coast of Miami. It's has a big bridge to get there. Everyone likes to run over that bridge, probably the biggest bridge in our area. And became a PE teacher my first couple years, and it was I was a PE teacher, and there was another PE teacher who was the athletic director. He ended up leaving. They offered me, hey, do you also want to do this athletic director job? Something I never even really thought about. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like kind of fun. So I tried it out for a year, was a middle school athletic director. I brought in some sports, obviously brought in basketball. They didn't have that, and I was like, can't have it, need it. So started some basketball programs there, coach basketball, coach flag football, and coach some of the other sports that we had on campus. And then I realized I was like, wow, I really like this, day in and day out, administrative role with sports. And I kind of dug into it a little bit more and ended up pushing me to get my master's at St. Thomas University, which is, if you ask me, the best athletic administration program across the country. I think they were one of the first, if not the first, to offer sports administration as a major. They when they were doing it in the early 70s, they had the Dolphins. They had all the minor league teams on campus, and they really started to, branch out from there and turn this program into one of the best that even, have notable alumni from, former athletic director UM Blake James to, Mike Kelly, who's now was at University of South Florida, just got the job at Navy, who was also from that program, and a bunch of others that came through there. So got an opportunity to go there. Had an opportunity to get my master's. While I was getting my master's, I was a PE teacher, I was athletic director, and I was a GA. I began to work as a GA for the school. So basically, would get up, go to work, be at work at 7 in the morning, finish school, finish athletic director stuff at 5 o'clock, and then take the drive over to Miami Gardens and was working their games. I was doing, different things from, social media to statistics, a lot of different things, sports information, a lot of different things in that world. I also got to work hand in hand with Laura Courtney Todd, who was the athletic director at the time at St. Thomas University, who also graduated from that program. Got to get a lot of great feedback from her. She was a phenomenal athletic administrator. Stepped away from that role and now is a professor at the school. But still got a lot of valuable information from her and from St. Thomas University. Kind of just seeing how that world of college athletics works. And in turn got to get my master's and apply for some positions. I didn't really want to teach anymore. The sun was brutal. I was hot. It was hot and it was hot. And then my favorite classes were the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds because I was a rock star to them. I'd walk through the hallways, they'd be chanting my name. I'd feel like a complete superstar. So those were by far my favorite classes, but also I wanted to get out of the sun a little bit, get into, an office a little bit more, but still get, to do some of the things that I love. That's where I applied at LaSalle. And funny story, I didn't get the position as the athletic director. I was chosen as the assistant athletic director. They were hiring a gentleman that was supposed to come down from Orlando to be the athletic director. I said, you know what? I need to get my foot in the door. I said, yes, I'll do it. Assistant AD. Couple weeks go by, I get a call from the principal. I'm in the car in the parking lot at St. Agnes. And she's like, hey, so the gentleman who was going to take the job ended up staying in Orlando, had a better opportunity, and we want to offer you the head position instead of the assistant position. And I was like sitting in my car, and I was like, and she's her name is Sister Kim. She's a nun, a Salesian nun. And I was like, sister, excuse, you're what? You're offering me the head position? And she's like, yes. We think you would do a great job, and we want to know if you'd be willing to take that role. And I was like, of course. I was 29 years old, and I had never been athletic director at the high school level. I coached high school basketball at St. Brendan for a little bit as an assistant, and I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And I am a big, big supporter of trial by fire. Just kind of just jump in there, and you'll figure it out. And that's kind of what I did. And it's been a great run ever since.
Well, again, I appreciate you sharing all those details. Going back, to your position where you're working full time, you're getting your master's and you're all over the place. I mean, that's just a great lesson for, anybody, young or old about, hey, I want to get to this point and these are the steps I'm going to have to, go through to get it done. I think I'm not trying to, throw an entire generation of young people under the bus, but that sometimes seems to be a lesson that they, aren't willing to learn. Um, and that experience you had, working at the college level and doing all those different things, what a great, on the job training. And you mentioned Lauren, she's actually going to be a guest on the podcast in a few weeks. So,
She's the best. She's the
I'll make
best.
sure that she goes back and listens to your episode. Um, what did I want to say there? When that phone call came from the head of school at LaSalle, saying, "Hey, we'd like to offer you the head position," was there any moment where you thought about, "Hey, this is an opportunity for a negotiation"? Did that cross your mind, or was it, "Hey, thank you, I'll take the job"?
So yeah, yes and no. Yes, where when I accepted it, I mean no, when I accepted it, I didn't think of that initially, right? I was like just wanted the job. And then when I got to go in there and talk to her, that's where I got to, hey, well, if I'm gonna be taking this role, I would like to be compensated like you would have done, for that head position. Since I'm gonna be taking on all that work, I only think it would be, correct to kind of compensate me, the way that you would have wanted to compensate
Right.
anyone with my credentials and my background, starting at that in that position. Obviously, I can't imagine that they would pay me whatever they were going to pay the gentleman if he had some 20, 30 years of experience,
Right.
and had a lot of things under his belt. But I definitely, got to negotiate my salary up a little bit more, which was something that that I wanted to do in person. I didn't want to do over the phone right after accepting the job.
No, no, no. And that's great. I love the way you did that. Now, at the same time, the other candidate, he was going to be the AD with an assistant. Okay. Now you're the AD. Was there an assistant for you?
So, yes, they actually appointed my first assistant, which was our head football coach at the time, Edwin Pata. He's actually a college football coach. Before he came to us to coach high school football for 1 year, he was the interim head coach at I believe it was at FAMU. Came back down to Miami. His long line of football, a football family. Had an opportunity to jump on. It wasn't Crystal. It was Manny Diaz's staff, I believe, over
Right.
at UM. So I had him for 1 year. He ended up jumping over to UM. So I got to hire my own assistants after that. But yeah, they did appoint the head football coach to be my assistant, which was a great learning curve for sure. My first year as a 29-year-old athletic director with an older, more experienced,
Right.
head football coach. That was a first fun year for sure.
Well, great moment to take a break, and we're going to come back and hear all about your experience then and now at LaSalle. Our guest is Nick Fernandez. He's the athletic director at LaSalle High School, and that's in Miami, Florida. Let's take that break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Snap Mobile, particularly Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with our teams with tremendous success, and I know you will too. Go to their website, check out all of their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We also want to thank our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are tremendously versatile, and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to thank our friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing genius. Maybe it's just going to be a simple social media post to celebrate a victory. Could be an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things that your athletic department's doing in the community. Either way, the team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. That's Gipper.com. You're going to be very glad you did.
Snap Raise has been a lifesaver for me. Being honest, I when I got into the role, Snap Raise, a lot of the funding for some of our teams were low. We didn't have a lot of money. Looked around what was the best option. You talked to some other schools. Snap Raise came up, started using them, and it's so easy. And it's easy not because I don't, again, one of my favorite things, I don't have to do anything. Just kind of oversee, make sure everything's happening correctly. Um, but the database, the infrastructure, like the way that they make it work, it's seamless because your coaches are the ones using it, and it's very easy for them. It's not a lot of extra work for them, and that's really why I like SnapRace so much. You could get money from Alaska to Europe to anywhere at the click of a button. If abuelo and abuela, their grandparents, if they're in another city or another state, they're still willing to donate, which is great. And SnapRace is awesome. Highly recommend it.
Well, at least the English words, you took those right out of my mouth. Again, it is so easy if you're not familiar with SnapRaise listeners. It's 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 probably at the top of my list for return of investment based on no effort at all from the athletic director. They do such a great job. Nick, thanks for sharing that. Once again, our guest is Nick Fernandez. Nick, you took us up to the hiring process there at LaSalle. Um, Share with our listeners a little bit about the school. Its history. The enrollment. Type of students that or the your stakeholders that you have, and then share some of the things that you're really proud of about LaSalle.
Yeah. So LaSalle is a co-ed institution. It's only high school, so it's ninth to 12th grade. It was um, a Catholic high school in the Archdiocese of Miami, and it's run by the Salesian Sisters, which is um, uh, you know a denomination of nuns that basically come from St. John Bosco and basically teaching the youth and teaching the young kids, aspiring young kids, and that's really they're one of their main models um, of the Salesian Sisters is really just helping out the kids, helping out the youth, and spreading love, and they do such a good job with that. Sister Kim is a phenomenal principal and a great leader for us, and really allows us to kind of be ourselves. And then the demographic is very different how it was when my brothers went there because my brothers both actually went to high school at LaSalle. I didn't. I'm the oddball out, but both of my brothers went there. And it's in a very high socioeconomic area of Miami where it's a very nice neighborhood. You got some major schools down the block, that are very expensive. So we're actually one of the cheaper ones in the area. But our enrollment is around close to 900 now. We have about like 240 or so per class, give or take, and all from kids all walks of life, kids from inner cities, kids from Key Biscayne, like I talked about earlier, which is a very nice wealthy area, from kids in Westchester all the way up to Kendall. We get all types of backgrounds and demographics in our school, and it really is there is a place for everyone at LaSalle, and it's actually a really special place to be, regardless if you like athletics or if you like getting involved in education or in drama or whatever the case may be, robotics, STEAM. They got a little bit of something for everybody, and it's a great place to be for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's really a cool campus. Just kind of when you first come up, I think it just kind of oozes, history. Um, you were sharing the story about you got to hire your head football coach and your staff, and you mentioned a couple of times, yeah, you're 29 years old, really kind of first time AD at the high school level. Take us through some of those experiences. What sticks out maybe from those earliest years.
Oof. They didn't really explain to us that I think the hardest part of our job is managing personalities. Every single coach in the building, every single, person that I interacted with was so different who was under me. And handling all their different personalities and their wants and their needs, some very low maintenance that don't need anything, some very high maintenance, some you need to kind of, talk to a little bit more. Though that really stuck out to me my first year because I wasn't really, you know, fully prepared to kind of deal with everything. I thought a lot of people were just going to be just like me, and kind of have same a lot of my same sensibilities, but it was hard because again, being a first time AD, 29 years old, a lot of my coaches are older than me, more experienced. So it was just kind of proving to them that I knew what I was doing, that I had their backs, and that I could do my job well, on top of, supporting, the school and making sure that I did everything the right way. It was a challenge for sure. My first year had a lot of conversations with a lot of different athletic directors and a lot of different people I tried to lean on. Um, Trying to get through some of those, frustrating times. But like I said, it made me a better person. It made me a better athletic director. It made me have a better understanding as to, what I need to do.
They, you mentioned they don't talk about personalities. One of my questions comes off the phrase, you don't know what you don't know. As you were diving into the athletic director position, what were some things that you found out that you didn't know besides, dealing with personalities?
Um, I would say how difficult the high school athletic landscape is right now, on from keeping athletes in your institution, to trying to help promote your institution so you get better quality athletes walking through the doors. That was something that I didn't really realize how difficult that was going to be, making sure that we did everything the right way and making sure that we, you know, had kids in the school that were fitting the mold um, of a student that would go to LaSalle High School and being able to be successful in the classroom and on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember, and again, I became an AD, later. I'd been a head football coach and, had, I guess, some experience, but yeah, I just remember as a high school student myself, and that definitely was 100 years ago, there were always um, uh, coaches who taught in the building. Our basketball coach was a history teacher. The football coach taught math, and I'm going as an AD, a first time AD. How come none of these teachers, want to coach, and having to work with off-campus coaches. And I've had some of the best coaches I've had were off-campus coaches. What's your, I guess, percentage at LaSalle of coaches who are also, teachers or even work on campus?
A good percentage. That's one of the benefits of having a great administration that kind of understands and sees the benefits of having, those coaches on staff, especially if you're in some of your major sports, right? Like football, like basketball, like soccer. Um, Having them in the building really allows of a presence for the students to understand because for whatever the reason is, those athletes really respect their coaches, and really want to make sure that if their coaches are, doing things the right way and they're respectful of their coaches, they might be a little silly in class, but once they see, head coach walk in or something like that, they kind of sit up real fast and kind of change their body language. So understanding that, understanding communication, understanding, just the benefits of having them in the building are great. That is a great point that you said. That is something that I didn't realize was going to be as difficult as it was when I'm hiring a coach. Them wanting to be in the building or wanting to do something, but yet not really wanting to fully teach is something that I was having to juggle early on, trying to talk to the administration, figuring out how we can get this person into the building because it's best for the program. But they can't really teach what's available. And
Right.
the administration does a good job kind of allowing us to kind of figure out the best spots for some of those coaches to still keep them on staff, and kind of get all the benefits of that.
And that's really, I guess, the key point is having an administration that also values bringing in great teachers who can also do something else. Maybe advise a club, run the yearbook or something, and not those teachers that they're beating the kids out the gate at the final bell. Yeah, have an administration that supports that's tremendous. Nick, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit, see how you do things at LaSalle, or just add you to their network, what's the best way that our listeners can get a hold of Nick Fernandez?
Emailing me for sure would be the easiest and quickest way to kind of reach out to me. You can also, call me on my cell phone, or shoot me a text, let me know who you are, excuse me, and I'd be able to try and get back to you. But the best way would be, you know, reaching to me via email. Through my school email is typically the one that I use the most. And I'm pretty. It's almost like a text message to me. I'll get back to you, relatively quickly. On my emails for sure. You can always call me on my school line as well. Leave me a message. I'll get back to you. But I can kind of reach out via email, cell phone, any way that's kind of best for anyone that needs help because I know how that is. I was in their shoes, 7, 8 years ago, if you're first starting out, and it's not easy. So having someone that you can kind of talk to and kind of lean on is huge. And I'm not someone that's been through everything and has all the answers or has every experience under my belt, but I've had a lot of experiences. I've networked as much as I can. Being on the board of directors now for the FIAAA and things like that. That's it's really opened my eyes to the profession and just kind of the importance of having others that you can lean on.
Well, again, we appreciate you sharing that. Again, you can go to the Immaculata LaSalle website and find his email. We'll give those emails and cell phones out at the end of the show. So you're going to have to stick with us. Let's go and take another break. I know that's shocking for our regular listeners, but we are going to come back So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Hometown for their support. Hometown is changing the game for schools and organizations with their suite of solutions that includes things like, oh, big surprise, digital ticketing. They're still the number one digital ticketing platform for schools and colleges. How about fee-free fundraising with School Funder, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more? Whether you're just an AD or a head coach or a principal, Hometown makes it easy for you to save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. For more information, just go to hometown.com and don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to thank our friends at Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's through Ohio, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We want to thank our good friends, our very good friends at Home Campus. Home Campus is the official high school sports administration software platform for Florida, for California, and for thousands of athletic directors. And even if your state has a different platform, you can still be a home campus school. I'm telling you, the athletic clearance and eligibility platform alone is incredible. You truly have to see it to believe it. Go to homecampus.com for more information. Don't forget to mention the podcast, homecampus.com.
Yeah, home campus is amazing. One-stop shop. The FHSA, we use the home everything through home campus. Um, from our clearances, being able to upload, all the information that we need, putting our schedules, our rosters, contracts, even communicating with other athletic directors on there. It's really a seamless site. They've made it better each year, kind of tweaking and making it, a little bit more user friendly. And the FHSA does a great job with that in home campus, teaming with them and kind of making our lives a little bit easier. Having it a one-stop shop is great.
Yeah, again, thank you for sharing that. Our listeners hear me sing the praises of home campus all the time. For the athletic eligibility and clearance, I know when we switched to having our parents and student athletes upload the forms themselves, I mean that in itself was a game changer. Do you do that at LaSalle? Do you have the families upload the forms?
We don't use them for uploading the forms. We definitely still use them for the clearances of the athletes, making sure their EL2s and EL3s are up to date, with our athletic trainers on there to make sure they're eligible, for the rosters. We use a different platform, but they still make it easy for our trainers to kind of go in there, making sure that they all the information, everything's up to date, and then kind of highlight someone that's red, that's missing something,
Right.
having people in green, that they're good to go. It's just it allows everything to move pretty smoothly.
Oh no, yeah, the platform's great. If you have the opportunity, I'd highly suggest having the parents do that. Let's go ahead and jump into our next topic. We've said a couple times, Nick, you are a certified athletic administrator. That doesn't happen by accident. Share again because we have new ADs, young ADs, and even veteran ADs who are just starting their journey, maybe with their state association or the NIAAA. How'd you first get involved with the leadership training courses through NIAAA? How'd you get involved with FIAAA? And as you mentioned, you're a district director. You're part of the board. So can
Yeah.
you share that part of your journey?
Yeah, I would love to. Kind of, right place, right time. Had someone that was on the board, that reached out to me. Dung, he used to be the technology, the director for the FIAAA. I had worked with him when he was at Miami High and with the GMAC. And when he reached out to me, he was like, "Hey, He said he liked the way that I kind of handled myself, kind of did some of my work. Obviously with the GMAC, which is like one of the main official association for South Florida. I worked with him a lot in communications and talking about different things. And even when I first started out, he was one of the people that I kind of got to speak with a lot, trying to figure everything out, making sure I had officials for certain games, making sure I was doing things correctly. A couple years go by, and he reached out to me saying that there was an opening, and he thought that I'd be a good fit. Kind of gave me the parameters as to what would entail me joining the board and being a district director. At first I was a little hesitant, didn't know if I wanted more work, but at the time I was still pretty young and I didn't know, what the landscape was like or what I really wanted to do. So I was like, I was an athletic director, but I wanted to do more, wanted to get my name out there more, and I wanted to be better. So I was like, you know what, let's just do it. Ended up going up there for the conference and sitting around the round table with everyone at the board of directors. And I'm sitting there and I got my nameplate and I'm like, okay, I feel official. I'm cool. I got a nameplate, got my name on it. But I'm looking at everyone else's nameplate and I'm like, why do they have CAA? Why do they have CMAA? And I'm like, this is like what? Like, did they get a different degree than I did? I have a master's, but like, so I didn't know what it was. So then I'm Googling there as they're talking, and I'm realizing, oh, what's this? Oh, what's that? And then I'm sitting around some of the gentlemen who and ladies who have, you know, that are teachers of the courses, that are representatives of the LTIs at the national and state level. And then they started talking about it, and I'm like, wait, so this is something that you guys offer that we can do, and it's like allows me to get better at my profession. And I'm already about 5 years in, six, yeah, about 5 years in, because I'm, you know, figuring out, what else I need to do, and they gave me this opportunity where they were like, "Hey, you're going to be on the board. We're going to do these things with the state conference. You got to go up for a couple meetings throughout the year," which was fun. Um, but that's kind of how I figured out CAA, CMAA, and then this past year, again going back to something we touched on earlier in the podcast, which is COVID, right? I one of the few tiny benefits, they recorded everything and they started streaming it and posting it, so I didn't have to take all the classes at the state. And I started realizing I can get my CAA without actually having to go in person to anything. So that's exactly what I did. I started taking 501, 502, 503 on my own time. I started in the summer and throughout the year, I kind of just worked on it. Side note, thank you for my school for professional development's big. They have a budget for that. I told them this was part of my professional development. So they helped me pay for some of those classes and some of those things, which made things a lot easier for me. And yeah, I took everything online and it was a great experience, great information, and it's just a really an endless, encyclopedia of knowledge where you could just pick a class and learn something new every single time. And some of them now are online, which makes it easier if you have a growing family like I do. I have a 7 month old, well, going to be 8 months in a week. I got a 3 year old running around as well. So trying to figure that out while still trying to do some of these things online, allowed me to stop, kind of go figure, bedtime and then kind of come back and keep going. So it was great, informative, and I got to take the test online as well,
Right.
which was a cool experience. I had never done that before, but it was a lot of fun, very eye-opening, and very informative. And I highly recommend it for every new and any AD at all that can kind of just want some more information.
Um, Again, as you're sharing that, similar experience, but mine came much later in my career. I was 50 years old before I, heard about FIAAA. I'd just become the AD at Palmer Trinity, and we were up for this was in the early days, the compliance seminar. And that year, they offered 501 as part of the compliance. And I said, I'll take this, see what it is. And I was hooked immediately. I came back. This was during the summer. Went to the NIAAA website. Of course, it's changed over the years, but signed up for the remaining required courses through one of the university providers. Uh, August, September, October, finished those courses, and then I flew to Dallas that same year to take the exam. While I was in Dallas at one of the roundtables, was talking to some ADs, got the idea for what became my CMAA project at Palmer. About 2 years later, I had my CMAA and I was off and running. So good for you that you got started so much earlier. I always ask this question as you're taking some of those courses, the 501s, 502, 503, kind of the administrative courses, then you get into the legal courses. Usually it's two responses. Boy, this is really cool. I got to bring this back to my school. And then the other one is, oh my God, I'm not doing this. I need to bring this back to my school. Did you have those experiences as well?
Oh yeah, it was a holy bleep moment, like you realizing what can actually go wrong and where it's gone wrong for certain, other unfortunate individuals. And it's like it makes you a little nervous. Makes you, that's why I wouldn't tell anyone to take legal first. Take some of the other ones first because it might
Exactly.
scare you
Exactly.
away, and I don't want that. I don't want you to get scared away because I was going through some of it and I was like, geez Louise, we got to make sure that I, change this up or do this differently or
Mhm.
making sure that, this doesn't happen to us because, we are representatives of the school. We got to make sure that school's interest is, top of the line, with student safety. So it's like, making sure that we're representing and doing things the right way because, you never want to get, get any sort of situation where the lawyers are getting involved or anything like that
Right.
because it's never good. Never good.
Yeah. Well, even in see when I took 503 didn't exist when I started. The 502, the book was like this thick. I'm not exaggerating. And I think it's in 502. It might have been moved to 503 where they discuss the 14 legal duties. Just seeing those for the first time, just oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. Now, I was on the National Certification Committee for many, many years. Helped develop the oral presentation format for the CMAA. I wouldn't be doing my job, and again, I'm not on the committee anymore. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you, Nick, what have you thought about for a potential CMAA project?
Um, I haven't really thought that much down the line, if I'm being completely honest. I do want to get my CMAA eventually. But I haven't really delved too much into it to kind of really give you an answer as to what my project would be. Um, you know, I know that you touched on that you did yours a little bit. You mind if I ask you what was some of yours was about? Your project?
Well, it was kind of a combined student athlete leadership program. And again, this was 20, gosh, I'm dating myself, 2012, maybe 2013. So those were really coming into vogue then. And they're still very great things. But it also morphed into some sportsmanship with our student leaders and our coaches and things like that. And I did it old school. I wrote it out, and I really enjoyed it. But I'm telling you, if the oral option had been around where you present it, I would have been all over that. And to answer your question, and for any listeners, the best CMA projects usually come out of something that you're doing right now. Maybe you're doing it with kids, with your student athlete leaders, maybe with coaches, maybe it's with your parents, your fans, your facilities. Um, you're already doing something that could turn into a CMA project. You don't have to do something pie in the sky. I had been at Palmer for a couple of years. We had some really great kids and great coaches too. Don't get me wrong. And just this idea of bringing that group together and creating, synergy. Well, this kid, he just plays basketball. And so, kids in cross country and tennis, et cetera, they don't get to see his leadership. And we had a girl that was just phenomenal volleyball player. Just bringing all those people together, that was kind of, my idea. So
Nice.
I'll plant that seed. And again, for Nick, for you, or for listeners, I still help athletic directors put the idea together, get their thoughts arranged, organize their CMA, whether it's written or oral. I'll even do Zooms with people where they
Nice.
present their project and
Sweet.
give them my feedback, having seen quite a few presentations over the years. And again, love doing that. It keeps me connected and helps or allows me to help that next generation current generation to become the leaders that they're supposed to be. So,
Might take you up on that eventually.
okay. So yeah, think about what you're doing at your school right now. Hey, this is cool or something. And it doesn't have to be something you're doing right now, but don't feel like you do have to come up with this, oh my goodness, it's the greatest project in the world. Right? Um, Nick, this has been really cool getting to know you and picking your brain a little bit. But we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you shared your journey as an AD. I think you know your way around the world of athletics. But we're going to take our final break here from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor this segment. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 items in the toolbox. So let's take that break. And when we come back, we're going to see what Nick Fernandez puts in his new athletic director toolbox. We'd like to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. At my school, we use surveys for everything, for our student athletes, for our coaches, for teachers, even for parents. And here's the cool thing. The information that would come back on these surveys almost always was over the top positive. Sure, we still heard from those squeaky wheels that we usually already were hearing from, but it gave them a chance to share their concerns, gave us a chance to listen to it, and usually keep them from turning into something big. But going back to that positive feedback, and I'm talking 98%, having that data was incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or how about your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Nick Fernandez. Nick's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Immaculata LaSalle High School in Miami, Florida. Tremendous background, does a great job with his program. But right now, I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new AD on their very first job. So, Nick, what 3 tools are going into your new AD toolbox?
All right. Thanks again, Jake, for having me. It's been a great time doing this with you. Uh, 380 toolbox. Well, I say the first for sure is something that I wish someone would have told me my first couple years. Take 501, 502, and 503. Take them, take them, take them. It's going to help you get a foundation under you. It's going to help you realize how to organize yourself, how to prioritize certain things, and how, if you've never done this before, how to basically do it the right way when you're just starting out. I wish I would have watched that my first couple years. The good thing is when I got to watch it, and if you have been an AD for a couple years, it gets to reassure you that what you were doing or what you are doing was along the lines of what other people were doing. So even if you have been for a couple years and you haven't taken them and you feel like, oh, I've already been doing this for a while, this isn't something that I need. It was reassuring and reaffirming to hear some of the things that I was implementing and doing early on were along the lines of what some of our other predecessors were doing, which was great. So I definitely would say take those, go to your local conference, and take them in person if you can. You might have me as a teacher. I taught 503 for the first time this past state conference. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, take 501, 502, and 503 for sure.
No,
Go right
no,
into the second one.
yeah, yeah, go ahead. What else
All
you
right.
got?
I'm
That's a
sorry.
great
Sorry.
tool.
You got it. No, going right into the second one. Find the mentor, find the friend, find someone in the profession who's local, who's in your city, who you can talk to. From issues that you're having with official association to maybe you're having a problem with a coach, or maybe they just do something really well that you like that you want to implement. Having a communication with someone that can kind of do some of those things with you, whether you want to call them a mentor, whether you want to call it a locker room like we're doing with the FIAAA on our Sports U app. Go over to Sports U from the FIAAA. You'll be able to jump in our locker room, and we're kind of sending out some things on there to kind of help out certain ADs with certain things to kind of again just making sure that you're not reinventing the wheel. Because at the end of the day, the best coaches, the best administrators, they all are using tools that other people have used, and kind of tweaking it to their needs, or just doing exactly how they did it because it's already worked for them. Try and have see it work for yourself. And I would definitely, you know, encourage you to find someone that you can lean on, that you could talk to, to kind of help you out through some of those times. Um, the third one that I would say is use AI as much as you can. I didn't realize how much of a tool AI could be with our daily jobs, from something as simple as proofreading an email, or proofreading some PDF or some informational blast that you're sending out to make sure that it's all grammatically correct. To parent emails, and putting it in there and having an issue with just that parent that just loves to continue to come at you, continue to make life amazing for you. And kind of having AI help you be a little bit more empathetic, have you AI help you write some of your emails, have it, be a little bit more understanding, where maybe, you're having some time doing that. It's a great tool for you to kind of do some of those things with. Inputting your handbook. So you can throw your handbook in there. It can kind of go through your handbook for you and kind of help you out with certain things. I have to always do a speech, for open house and things like that. I'll throw my speeches in there. Have them come up with a new speeches. Have it tweak the speech to make it a little bit funnier, make it a little bit more serious. AI is phenomenal. It's a scary tool that is in the world right now, but it's also, if used the right way, can make your life so, so much easier. Um, and really, the only other tool that I could think of, is something that I tell our athletes, something that I tell our coaches: your attitude and your effort. Those are the only two things you can control in this life. I'm sure you've had a coach tell you that at some point, Jake. If not, I'm sure you've heard it from somewhere. But, attitude and effort are the only things you can control. I can't control, if someone runs a red light and hits my car. I can't control, if something happens, to someone I love. But at the end of the day, I can't control my effort. I can't control my attitude. And if I'm doing that the right way every single day, I'm going to be successful in whatever I do. So your attitude and your effort is by far the most important thing that you can come with every single day in your life, whether your job is athletic director, whether your job is coaching, whether you're, a telemarketer, whether you're doing, medical sales, or you're a doctor. If you have the right attitude and the right effort, people are going to want to be around you. People are going to want to be with you. And it's going to make sure that you're doing, your things the right way. And, you're just focusing on those two things, and you'll be all right.
Well, I love them all, and I love how you got that fourth tool in there. You're absolutely right about, you know, um, getting involved with NIAAA, get involved with your state association from the educational standpoint, and also hand in hand, finding mentors to, just be that person you can call up. Our great friend Dan Talbot has a line, if you talk to an AD and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And if they say, "Oh, everything's great," they're lying because they're dealing with, the exact same things that you're dealing with. And that's why you call them up so you can find solutions. The AI thing, an old guy like me, I use AI not every day, but I use it frequently. And you're absolutely right. If you've come up with a speech, a letter, a memo, AI can tweak that for you instantly. And as you said, make it more serious, make it more humorous. It's a great tool to use. And then your final tool, the attitude and effort, absolutely. I think that goes back to, we mentioned that, you showed, tremendous perseverance and effort, working that GA job. And, it's a lesson that needs to be shared, with this generation and my generation and everybody. So, Nick, thanks so much for coming on. Let's go ahead and give out those that contact information so our listeners, if they choose to, and listeners, I think you got a great resource here, can reach out. How do they get a hold of Nick Fernandez?
Yeah, best way to reach out to me, my email, my work email is the one probably I use the most. That'll be the first letter of my name, N, my last name, Fernandez. That's with an F, as in Frank, Fernandez. It'll be at ilsroyals.com. So that's I as in igloo, L as in lion, S as in Sam, Royals with an S.com. That's my school email address. If you want to shoot me a text, 305 is my cell phone. Feel free to shoot me a text. Leave me a voicemail if I don't answer you. Just because if I don't have your number saved, I'm gonna think you're spam, and it might go to my voicemail. So if you leave me a voicemail, I'll get back to you for sure. So we can kind of talk and see what I can do to kind of help you out. And kind of just talk and make our experiences a little bit better.
Hey, even an old guy like me knows you don't call and leave a voicemail. Send a text, introduce yourself. Hey, this is Billy or Mary from Nebraska. I heard you on the podcast. God, don't leave those voicemail bombs that somebody has to go back and listen to. Nick, thanks again. All the best. I know, well, we're not at opposite ends of the states, but hopefully we can connect, if not before, definitely at the national conference in Tampa.
Definitely, definitely. We'll be there. I'm planning on attending. We got our board meeting in September to kind of get ready to hit the ground rolling, and I'm sure they'll have me working. Mr. Childs and the gang will have me running around doing something, I'm sure. So I'm excited for it, excited to learn from it. Excited to kind of meet some more people over there. So it'd be great to touch base with you again. And thank you so much again for having me on. It was a great time. And I would love to be back. Anytime you need anything, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to join again.
Oh, absolutely. We'll get you on. And, who's ever running the, for FIAAA, who's ever in charge of the home state information booth, tell them, Jay could be happy to serve a shift on that if they need some help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jake.
All right, for our listeners, we want to say thanks and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational 80 Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of education-based athletics. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational 80 Podcast. We'll see you next time.